Welcome, fellow game enjoyers. I'm Tacaro, and today I wanted to talk to you about Spiritfall. Spiritfall is a new action roguelike platform fighter, I think is the best way you could describe it. Devs describe it as such, and I think that's fairly accurate. It's made by Gentle Giant, which is a pretty small studio, and it's their first game. I believe they might be up to the double digits numbers of employees in terms of people that worked on the game, but it's barely double digits, if that. So, small group, but they've made a pretty great game here, I think. It has been in early access on Steam for a while, but it released into 1.0 on February 28th, 2024, so I'm a little bit late in getting this video out, but I figured late was better than never, and I think this game is pretty great, so wanted to show it to you guys. It's currently out on Steam for both PC and Mac, and it looks like they might be looking at trying to get the console port out. I would love to see this on the Switch. I think that would be a great platform for it. And it's currently going for $19.99 USD, which I think is a very fair price. I would definitely pick this game up for that. I've been having a blast with it. So a couple quick housekeeping things before we get into the video proper. I just wanted to let you guys know, the devs did reach out to me and asked me to cover the game, but they did not provide a game key, and I am not being paid to make this video. So these are my unfiltered thoughts. Well, they are filtered, but it's really only by the fact that this is a genre of game that I enjoy quite a bit, and I like the game quite a bit. So there you go. Your mileage may vary, but you'll get to see my thoughts at least. And the other thing I wanted to say is thank you all for watching the Quasimorph video that I put out about 6 months ago at this point now. But I had a lot of fun making that, and it did way better than I would have expected for my first video in this format. And so yeah, thanks everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this one as well. So let's get into it. I've done 14 runs here, and I'm about 7 hours in. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know what my thoughts are. I've completed one run successfully, which I did about 6.5 hours in, rather. And we'll just start with the Inner Sanctum here that we start in. So this will be fairly familiar to any fans of roguelikes. You do all your meta progression upgrades here. There's also a little training dummy area, which I very much enjoy. Lets you get used to new weapons as you unlock them. And it's also a good little tutorial area when you first start up the game. So there's 3 different meta progression upgrade systems at play in Spiritfall. The first one here is, well, the spirit-based upgrades. These are going to make some pretty substantial changes to your character. I'm not going to go over the ones further down the trees because that would be a little spoilery for folks that are wanting to go in blind. But you've got a lot of different stuff going on here, and they're all themed based on the different deities or divine souls that you have been summoned by. I guess I should also address that. You are a lost soul who is neither dead nor alive, I take it, who has been tasked by these divine beings to rid the lands of what they call the Blight. And there's a little story that goes on. It's not as story heavy as something like Hades, but there's some intrigue, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. So yeah, but in terms of the meta progression upgrades, we've got some interesting stuff here. You've got some movement options that you can unlock, like this one, where when you dash, if you jump immediately afterwards, you get a little boost. I can show you guys that after we get out of this menu. You've got some pretty straightforward stuff like plus 50 base max health, which is incredibly useful. You start with 100 by default, so that's a pretty enormous boon. You also have things like start with 100 dust, which is the game's in-game run gold currency that you can spend at shops and stuff. And that's also pretty nice because that gets you halfway to purchasing an additional skill from one of the deities when you hit a shop. So pretty substantial upgrades here. A lot of movement options, a lot of stuff for keeping combos going, which lets you build up this in-run essence that you can use in between regions to buff up your weapon. And yeah, there's just a lot to go over here. A lot of interesting stuff. This one, for instance, is pretty cool. Always endure a killing blow. If with 1 health, if your health was at least 10% or higher prior. So some pretty good stuff here. I'm interested to see, as you get further into this meta progression, how much it might trivialize the game. There are quite a few options once you beat your first run to make your runs more difficult, so it might be one of those things where you can kind of tailor the difficulty to suit yourself and your style of play, which I think is a good way to do it. So here's the second set of meta upgrades. These require scroll resources, and they'll do things like, again, it's very varied, but you have a chance to have items offered at a discount at shops, or healing stone rooms appear in various regions, or stuff like the upgrades you get are more likely to be of a higher rarity per each region you've cleared. So there's a lot of stuff going on there too. And last but not least, you have the weapon unlock system and the weapon meta upgrades. These aren't quite as complicated, which I don't mind. There are quite a few weapons though. I believe, let's see here, 5 in total? And I believe each has an alternate form that has a different moveset, which I haven't played around with yet. But I would imagine that probably keeps things pretty fresh. Most of the meta progression here is simply getting additional damage or some weapon-specific stuff. These minor enchantment variants, those are the upgrades that I mentioned in between regions that you can acquire using that in-run essence you build up by keeping your combo meter going. So yeah, there you go. Quick overview of the meta progression systems. Here's that training room I mentioned earlier. I only have 3 of the 5 weapons unlocked. This one's pretty interesting. I'll just show you guys this one. We'll probably stick with the hammer, just because that's the one I'm most familiar with. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a sense of what the gameplay looks like when you've played around with a weapon for a little while. And yeah, they got a nifty little thing in the top left corner that walks you through all the different stuff the weapons have going on. It looks like a lot of them are pretty different. The bow here is obviously going to be distinct from the hammer, but the hammer's a pretty straightforward weapon. This one, the scythe, has an interesting deal where you can toss the head of the scythe out, and then you get a different set of attacks when you have the scythe head detached, and then you can either call it back, after which you do a pretty strong attack there, or alternatively, you can jump over it and you can smack it. You can just bounce it around, and throughout the run you'll get modifiers to make that bounce mechanic even more useful, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with the weapons. Yeah, we'll stick with the hammer for this run, so I can show you guys what that's like. Here's that little dash meta upgrade that I mentioned earlier. A little extra distance on your dash if you do that jump out of it. A lot of cool stuff going on. This will look very familiar to players of games like Super Smash Bros. Or Brawlhalla, and it plays very similarly. I would say in terms of feel, it feels somewhere in between Brawlhalla, which I feel like is a little bit more stiff, and something like the Smash Bros. Games, which tend to be a little more fluid feeling, for me at least. This is the difficulty modifier stuff that I mentioned you unlock after your first run. I'm not going to go into it too much because, again, I feel like a lot of folks will want to look at that themselves, but obviously all the stuff on the left we can check if we'd like to, and that will make the runs harder in various ways. So you can kind of tailor it to make it as difficult as you'd like, and you get additional essence for that. And I think probably to fully complete the game, you'll have to complete runs with each of these equipped, but don't quote me on that. So here we are, we're into our first run. The Outskirts typically is a room that just has a couple small enemies. Lets you get your bearings. And it'll give you your first blessing. This is provided from a random divine animal. In this case, we're getting Zalvoon. It's an interesting one I haven't played with much. Another interesting thing to note here in this screen, I love what they've done with the meta progression and unlocks here. But here's a list of all the divine beasts that provide blessings, and you can click into them, and as you encounter and pick their upgrades in the world, they'll be added to this compendium. And the compendium will show you on the, well, it'll show you both what they do, and on the right side, it'll show you the requirements in terms of stuff that you need in order to get these added to the pool of upgrades you are shown. And it's a really great system. You also unlock additional stuff as you fill out these compendiums. I like it a lot. So when you're in run, if you see a little book icon on the top left of one of these cards, that means it is a power that you haven't chosen yet, and so choosing it will add it to your compendium and help you complete those. And I think that's a great way to go about it, so let's try this. This will change our bolt. And Confusion is pretty neat. You do extra damage when you hit enemies from behind. Zalvoon is focused on applying and making use of that debuff. We'll see how well I can make use of it here. Interesting. It doesn't pierce anymore, which is actually a little bit of a bummer. Because usually the bolt piercing is pretty useful. That spread pattern is nice though. As you can see, the combat flows together really well. It feels almost immediately fantastic to play, especially if you're familiar with platform fighters. The one thing I will say is the jump feels a little bit short, but there are abilities you can acquire that give you more jumps, and I think the jump is tuned just perfectly to let you combo off a lot of the launchers that weapons have. So it's something that initially I was a little bit iffy on, but I have come to appreciate what they did with the jump. So we've got a blessing here. Well, actually it's a power for a blessing, this gem. And since we only have one blessing now, we don't really have an option as to which we apply it to, but we'll just apply it to Pentacle Bolt. More damage. I'm all for it. Now, the road splits. And I think we're going to go to the right because I would like to stack Zalvoon blessings. A lot of the time it pays dividends to at least have one main divine entity that you're trying to grab blessings for. Although there are a lot of ways to synergize various beasts' blessings together. There's even some blessings that require you to have blessings from multiple beasts in your build before they're actually added to the pool, so. A little dust. We'll get the Zalvoons. Man, the combat just feels so good. Bouncing these enemies around feels absolutely fantastic. Your options for comboing are pretty great from the get-go, but as the run continues, they'll get even better. The weapon enchantments that you unlock between regions do add quite a bit to the gameplay. Okay. Neutral attack deals more damage. Let's try this out. So standing still and pressing X will do more damage with this overhead strike. I'm kind of curious to see how we do with that. Oh, and it looks like we have a boss coming at our at our party here. Oh, I went to the wrong one. Oh well, that's okay. We're spreading the love a little bit. Not what I intended to do, but we're gonna roll with it. This enemy here has armor. The yellow health bars need to be broken prior to doing much actual HP damage. And enemies have super armor while that yellow armor is still intact. So you gotta be careful with those types of enemies. Oops. It can be easy to get lulled into a false sense of security here when you got a good combo going, and then one of those armored enemies shows up and they hit you while you're going to work. Okay, let's see here. This would be pretty good for us. Status effects have increased duration. We'll go for that. More dust is also a good long-term investment, but that's another thing I would say I very much appreciate about this game. There are very few situations where it feels like you are given bad choices. Almost every blessing feels powerful, and they all, while some of them don't synergize directly, they all play together pretty darn well. So I've never felt like the game is just giving me a really terrible build that is going to be something that I can't win with. So hats off to the developers for making that work. Let's see here. Shadow Partner. So this is a special skill. We can only equip one of these per run. Looks interesting. Let's try it out. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Okay. Oh, that's pretty neat. Interesting. I'm into that. So, I'm not sure what would happen here if we tried to dodge this boss, but I want the Zalvoon Blessing, so we're gonna go say hi to it. The Pursuer Guardian. This is a mini-boss that will follow you. In my first winning run, he didn't show up until fairly late into it. Okay, this is not going well. Oh, we'll make it work, though. Okay. He's a little tricky. Usually, enemies don't get super armor unless they have spawned with it, but he is getting it as he attacks periodically. I would like to not lose this. Oops. Oh boy. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, I guess I can show you guys what happens when you lose a run. There we go. Alright, we're back to the start in classic roguelike fashion. So let's see here. We'll grab this just for fun. If you cling to a wall, reset your available air jumps. Could combo pretty well. So we'll just run it back. In fact... No, I lied. I was thinking we could go with the bow, but I'm not confident enough that we'll even make it to the boss there. I'd love to show you guys the first boss. We'll see if we can make it happen. Alright. Interesting. Another divine being I have not worked with too much. Let's try this out, Dousing Bolt. Okay. Let's grab a chest. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we do have a piercing bolt again, which is helpful. And here the game is giving us a choice between two of the meta progression upgrades available. I think I'll grab the scroll. This is a relic. We can equip up to 3 at a time. That's pretty neat. Okay, whenever we kill enemies, they drop more currency per unique status effect on them, and we also do 16% additional damage to elite enemies. I like that. So what we'll probably want to do here is not stick to one specific divine being or spirit. And let's see here. I'm thinking we'll have options. Let's go over to Solesh. Oops. Oh. Alright, there we go. They were getting the better of me for a second there. Alright, what have we got here? When your essence multiplier is above 1.5, deal area damage that inflicts burn for 2 seconds every second. I like that. So to keep this up, we need to not get hit. And we need to deal hits in fairly rapid succession. I'll do my best. We'll see if we can get it to proc. It's going. Alright. Yeah. Whoops. Alright, not bad. I can't really tell, but this might be hit stunning. That AoE that we've got might be hit stunning the enemies, which is pretty great if that's what it's doing. Beautiful. Okay, we'll take these glowing rocks. You like those? We got a little extra dust there too, which I will never sneeze at. Our combo multiplier does carry over between rooms, again, as long as we don't get hits and we continue hitting enemies. It should either stay at max or go up if we're not currently at max. Let's see, this is going a little bit better. Beautiful. Alright. Now we're working it. Okay, your down attack and up attack deal more damage. Enemies take bonus shield damage based on the number of drench stacks. Bubble shield is pretty great. It basically functions as a block or a parry from your usual platform fighter. Try that out. I'll grab that just to show you guys. It's pretty useful. Okay. Oh, geez. Well, there goes the combo multiplier. I could have used the block there that we just picked up. Let's see. Come on. Come on, roly-poly guy. Oh, okay. Could not cancel out of that. Which is very unfortunate. We're doing okay, though. I'm confident we can make it to the boss this time. And that's my real goal. If we can do that, this video will be a success. Alright. This is fun, and we'll get to show you this. The Hidden Rift. This shows up, I believe there's one per region that shows up typically in an open, empty space between two paths. And if we go here, instead of the usual enemy gauntlet that we fight, it will look very similar to a one-on-one smash fight with no items. And from what I've seen, you typically get both of the blessings or rewards for the other rooms that are to its left and right. And in addition to that, you get an essence that you can spend at the end of the region on improving your weapon, on weapon enchantments. So let's try that out. Oh, we got the hardest one. That's unfortunate. Oh, this map is kind of difficult too. Oops, there we go. So, the goal here is to kill the enemy 3 times without dying ourselves or falling. If we fall off the map, that is an instant loss. There we go. Oh, jeez. Oh. Alright, getting a little bullied here. There we go. Just carry him all the way up. Alright, so yeah, there we go. Got an essence. And we get both of these blessings, which is great for us. We want more status effects, so I think we'll go with this Rending Launcher. Wounded increases our chance to crit on enemies that have that debuff. And it stacks, which is pretty fantastic, so we'll grab that. So our smash attack, or launcher as they're called in these games, in this particular game. We'll apply that. Let's see, what else do we want to do? Status effects have increased duration. That is perfect for us. Let's do it. So continue on here. We have quite a bit of money. I think we'll go to the dust deposit. Hallowed Ground will give us a chance to heal 50% of our HP, but we'll be able to do that at the shop right before the boss. So let's go get more dust. Beautiful. One thing I do have to say as well about this game is I believe, in my experience with it, most of the fights have felt like they stay very readable, even when there's plenty of enemies on screen, which I think is pretty impressive given how much stuff is going on in some of these rooms. The devs do a pretty good job of having enemies telegraph their attacks, of having projectiles in particular have unique color schemes to make them stand out. It's a lot of little touches, but they're very much appreciated and they're noticeable. You can tell the devs put a lot of thought into the visuals of the game. And the music too. I mean, honestly, the presentation is just top-notch. For a team this small, even if it was a large team, in fact, this is one of the nicest looking games I've seen in a long time, in my opinion. And it's an art style that'll age very well too. I guess let's get additional damage on our up and down attacks. And what else have we got here? Essence multiplier can increase beyond its standard limit. Yeah, let's do that. More essence is pretty helpful. So, on to the boss. From what I've seen, these bosses do not... Oops. They don't really shake up in between runs. You usually fight them in the same order from what I've seen. It looks like once you've won runs, they might start to do some stuff differently. I'm not entirely sure on that. They definitely have different dialogue. But on the plus side, while there isn't that much variety in the per region boss encounter, the boss fights themselves are super fun and they are varied. Each one does feel a little different. I don't want to spoil any of them, but there's some pretty cool stuff that they do with the boss encounters. And they didn't get old for me yet. Okay, you've done it. You defeated all of them. They were counting on me to hold you back. They were counting on me. Yet the gate remains sealed. You failed just as I anticipated. It's okay, we'll try again. There's no need for excuses. Let your weapon do the talking. Okay. There we go. Got our shield down, so now it's our turn. We can do some combos. She does have an annoying habit of teleporting every now and then just when I'm getting into the rhythm of a combo. There we go. She's doing it again. Oopsie. Oh, this is bad. Not ideal. Okay, we got her with the counter. That was good. Should probably be using that. Ooh. Oh, geez. Not bad. Come on. Oh. Almost got her. And there it is. Not the cleanest fight I've ever done, but you know what? I'll take it. It hurts. I can feel it. The blight. Consuming everything. The blight is an interesting nemesis. Some of the bosses seem to think it's a good thing, and then at other times they seem to be not necessarily directly aligned with it. Hard to say. But regardless, first boss down. We're now in the sanctuary in between the first and second region. And in each of these sanctuaries you have a little healing pond that you can interact with. You heal for 50% of your HP, I believe, and here we run into a large lady. There's a lot of large ladies, and they provide some very interesting enchantments to us in exchange for our essence that we've accumulated from comboing enemies during the prior region. So let's take a look at these. Focus attack: when only one enemy is nearby, your attack deals plus 25% damage, so that's your X. I love the tooltips here too. Notice, it says attack, and you might be saying, okay, what is an attack? On the right side of the screen where our character is, it explains exactly what an attack is and what the input is for it. And that's a common theme throughout the UI for this game, is whenever you see some keyword, invariably they have a little pop-up somewhere that explains what the tooltip is talking about. So fantastic job on that. I've never had any issues with understanding what enchantments or spirit blessings do, and that is a pitfall many of these games fall into. So yeah, they did a great job with that. The last hit in your side attack combo deals 100% damage, additional damage, and stuns enemies for a good bit longer. And then these minor enchantments are usually just straight up stat buffs like increase attack speed. Sweet spot hits, which are kind of perfect hits with the weapon, do additional damage, and elite enemies take more damage from us. So I'm just going to take these ones. I find the major enchantments typically are more interesting, and they can be pretty impactful. These ones aren't the craziest I've seen. Some of them will change up your playstyle considerably. So yeah, we'll grab those. It's good stuff. And that uses up our 4 essence, so we're done here. And with that, guys, if we go through here, it's on to the next region, but I'm going to end the video there, both because I'm sure this is getting long, particularly since I failed in my first run, but also because I don't want to spoil any more of it for you. Each of the regions are pretty varied in terms of the visual style and the enemies you will face. A really good number of enemies that you'll run into throughout a run. Let's see, what other things do I have to say in closing? There's really not a whole lot negative I can say about this game. If you're into roguelikes or platform fighters, I think you really can't go wrong with this one. The only thing I will say is it feels like meta progression wise, and you know, this is hardly even a complaint because almost all roguelikes in this genre are built like this, but my first few runs I struggled to get past the first or second bosses, and I didn't receive very many meta progression currencies for upgrades from those runs, and so it felt like I wasn't making a whole lot of progress. Then I finally had a decent run, I got some pretty good synergies going, and I just got a roll, and I got quite a bit of meta progression upgrades from that winning run. But the issue there is that it's going to make all subsequent runs easier, and so it's one of those things where balance-wise your mileage may vary. I think there is something to be said for having a growing power fantasy in a game like this, so it's not really a bad thing, but it's just something you need to know going into it. The other thing that they do here, which I think is really smart, is after that first run, you unlock all those additional difficulty modifiers, and you could enable all of them for your, second run. Assuming you won on your first run, you could turn all the difficulty modifiers on for the very next run. And I think that's a great way to go about it, because if you feel like the game is too easy, there you go. You just up the challenge yourself. So I think the devs have done a good job at actually alleviating that issue that a lot of roguelikes have, where the meta progression you don't get until you already have a decent amount of experience with the game, and then it just kind of trivializes the game to some extent, potentially. And I think they've somewhat solved that here. So yeah, great game. The gameplay feels fantastic. The art is amazing. I think it's going to have a lot of staying power. There's a lot of options for builds already, but the devs have put out a roadmap, and it looks like they're going to be adding even more content. So yeah, I think you really can't go wrong with this. I hope you guys check it out if it seems like something you're interested in. I'll have a link to the Steam page for the game down below the video. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.